Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Felicia Pricenor, Vice President of Government Affairs at the March for Life. And we at the March for Life, along with our Illinois March for Life partner, Illinois Right to Life, are thrilled that you've joined us for this special event, Marching 101 Pro-Life Advocacy Workshop. Tonight, we have some amazing guests joining us to share with you inspiration and information about how you can become an effective advocate for life. Our amazing panel includes Ralph Rivera, lobbyist at Illinois Right to Life, to tell us about the current policy and legislative battles related to abortion and pregnancy resource centers happening right now in Springfield and why your voice is so important. We are also thankful to have both Senator Terri Bryant and Representative Jeff Keicher, who will share their insights as members of the Illinois General Assembly on what they have found to be the most effective advocacy tools when meeting with their constituents. And lastly, we will hear from Julie Garofalo of Waterleaf Pregnancy Resource Center, who will who will explore the critical role pregnancy resource centers play in Illinois in providing life-saving resources for women and babies in need. And at the end of our speakers' discussions tonight, we have set aside some time for you to ask questions. So as you're hearing this panelist speak, look at the bottom of your screen. You can actually type in some questions. There's a Q&A button, and you don't have to wait to the end to ask the questions. We will review them and ask at the end. So please just submit as they come to mind. So first and foremost, to begin our discussion today, I would love to introduce Ralph Rivera. Ralph is one of two pro-life lobbyists at the Illinois State Capitol working for Illinois Right to Life Action and has been working on the life issue for several decades. He has worked on hundreds of pieces of pro-life legislation and against dozens of anti-life legislation over the years. Ralph has testified on numerous pro-life bills before the Senate and House committees and represented the life issue on numerous TV, radio, and print and news media. He is also chairman of Illinois Citizens for Life PAC, a long-established political action committee supporting the pro-life candidates for various offices. So Ralph, it's no secret that the pro-abortion forces in the state are working to make Illinois an abortion destination, especially in the past couple of years since the Dobbs decision was handed down. We have seen increased attacks on women, babies, and children across the nation. Can you please tell us more about what you've been experiencing specifically in Springfield at the Capitol and why it's so critically important now more than ever that pro-life advocates make their voices heard?
Yes, I'd be happy to. Thank you. First, I want to say that I have a lobbying partner, as you had mentioned. Her name is Molly Rumley, and I had recruited her right off of college. She was just getting a degree in teaching. I said, would you like to lobby with me? She said, yes. And she's in her 6th year. So she's a seasoned lobbyist as well. So let me tell you about the current status of abortion laws in Illinois. 7 years ago, and through these 7 years, abortion legislation has appeared and passed, which virtually eliminated any restrictions or prohibitions on abortion. And they've even gone more to promote abortion, to ask people to come to the state of Illinois and get abortions paid for by Medicaid. It's a very bad situation. And this happened in just 7 years. Before that, we had a good protection for women and the unborn. And we were able to, we didn't have a ban, of course, because the US Supreme Court wouldn't allow that. But we did have some protections in place, and parental notice and taxpayer funding ban and so forth. All of those were eliminated in these past 7 years. Why? It comes down to a simple statement: elections. When we do not elect our pro-life candidates, then they're replaced with pro-abortion candidates. And that's what's been happening over these past 7 years. We now have in the General Assembly a supermajority of pro-abortion legislators in the Senate and in the House. That's hard to overcome, especially when you have a governor who is strongly pro-abortion. So that's the situation that we have. How can we, people listening, how can you say, well, what can I do? Well, the first thing that you can do is you can help one or more pro-life candidates. It doesn't matter who they are, you can help them in some way. If you haven't done it, anything you do can be very helpful. Certainly, make sure you're registered to vote, get out and vote, find out who those pro-life candidates are. And, also coming to the Capitol next week is a powerful kind of strengthens Molly and my position and the legislators like Representative Keicher and Senator Bryant to know that people are behind them. They're standing with them. And that shows strength to the other legislators. And sometimes you'd say, well, I've got a legislator who's just not with us. Well, then it's important that he knows or she knows that his district or her district has got strong pro-life people there. And he has to take that into consideration and be careful how he votes on things. But that's what you do by coming out and talking with your legislator. I want to give you an example of, even though we had this problem where we can't move bills we want to move and they're moving bills they want to move. Last year, there was a bill that went after the women's resource centers, like Julie with Waterleap, and they were considering that the bill was named creates the deceptive practices of limited service pregnancy centers. This bill only went after the women's resource centers, not the abortion clinics. They exempted them from this bill, even if they were doing something that they would say is deceptive. So we worked together with lawyers with Thomas More Society in getting questions to committees, that the Senate and House committees, and put together good information that the lawyers with Thomas More Society were ready to move on against this bill when it became law. This was Senate Bill 1909. You could look that up at ilga.gov and just type that in. You'll learn about what that really all entails. So the governor signed, it passed. The governor signed the bill at the end of July. In August, our lawyers went to federal court, and the federal court put a preliminary injunction on that. And this is what they said. The judge said, I'm going to put a preliminary injunction because he said, this is likely stupid and unconstitutional. And then he explained why. And so after that, our lawyers continued. And in December, the Attorney General, Kwame Raoul, his office had written this bill, said, all right, I agree that you should permanently enjoin this bill and not be enforced. They realized that they weren't going to win in court, and they gave up. And actually, you know what? They knew it was unconstitutional. And when they found out that they were blocked, it ended. So this bill is not enforced. It is not going to be enforced. And our women's resource centers are protected. And that's kind of teamwork, where you work together on so many fronts with the women's resource centers, the attorneys, the legislative and lobbying effort, and put that together. And then it finally works to the good. I want to just say that one of the key things I found in lobbying, and I'm sure the legislators have seen this, you don't know if a bill's going to go, but you keep working it and find out if you don't like the bill. I've seen things, I say, I've done a roll call, I don't see the votes, but it doesn't move. It ends up they don't have the votes. You just don't know. So you never give up, you keep working at it. And sometimes it works the other way. You say, well, I don't know if we can pass this bill, but you're really dogged in what you're doing. That's where the senator and the representative, they work on things. And what do you know? It pays off in one way or the other. And so we've learned not to give up. And part of what we do is to build relationships with other legislators and with other lobbyists and to have kindness. You know, it's not only a Christian thing to do, but it pays off, even if you weren't a Christian. Working together with people, making your word your bond. This all adds together to move bills occasionally or stop a bill. So let me leave it there. And I just, again, say this is a team effort. We're not giving up in Illinois. We can do this, but it takes winning elections and getting the right people in the General Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph, and thank you so much for your dedication and your career towards defending the unborn. I know there's tough days, so we appreciate that and for all your great insights. And I just want to reiterate one thing you said, that just approaching this with kindness and compassion and love, because we are among the walking wounded. And I think it, 1 out of 4 women have suffered from an abortion. So I think that's a critical, just, touch point that we all need to think about when we're talking about this issue. So there's certainly a lot going on in Illinois, and we are now going to hear from 2 of your elected representatives in the in the Illinois General Assembly. And first, I am excited to introduce Senator Terri Bryant. Senator Bryant was first elected to the Illinois House of Representatives in 2014, and then to the Illinois Senate in 2020. She was chosen as an assistant Republican leader for the Senate Republican Caucus in 2023. Senator Bryant's commitment to public service began in 1994 at the Illinois Department of Corrections, leading to 20 years of service before being elected to the Illinois General Assembly. Her professional experience has also includes farming and the service industry, including owning the successful Bluebell restaurant in Murfreesboro, Illinois. Senator Bryant resides in Murfreesboro with her husband, Rick, and they have 2 children and 6 grandchildren. Senator Bryant, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I know you meet with hundreds of constituents every year who are advocating for and against policies that you may or may not agree with. And we would just love to hear some of your experiences and insights about the importance of civil engagement, particularly from the pro-life community, and what you found to be most compelling approach, and maybe some stories that really struck you from meeting with constituents that really impacted you.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor to be able to talk to the folks that are on here today. I am pro-life without exception. I've been pro-life my entire life, including a time in high school when I was a part of one of the assignments that I had was with 3 other people to do a position paper, and we had to draw our topic out of a hat. We drew abortion. 2 people were pro-life, 2 people were pro-choice. I was one of the 2 pro-life people. We got to a point where we couldn't write our paper because neither of the 2 would switch. And I remember saying to my friend who said, can we just get this paper done? Let's just do the pro-choice side of this and we'll get done. And I said, no, I'm going to run for office someday, and I don't want somebody pulling up a high school paper and saying that I was ever pro-choice. So I'm going to tell you some quick stories here and then kind of get into what some folks can do when they come to Springfield for Lobby Day. My sister, Barbara, again in high school, my whole family is pro-life, and my sister Barbara's best friend got pregnant in high school. They were 15. I'm sorry, Lori was 16. She told her friend that if she would have the baby and not have an abortion, that she would pick the child up every Friday and watch her, and she would keep her 1 weekend a month until she graduated from high school. And then Barbara, who we call Bobby, also took her for school clothes and shoes once before school started and then once before the summer. So we're a family who puts our money where our mouth is and our actions. And then, of course, you get your kids raised. And if you're a mom of a daughter, if you think they get to a certain age, you think that they probably won't get pregnant out of marriage. But our daughter at 28, going through a divorce, got pregnant, turned out to be twins. She told us that she was pregnant with the father was the new boyfriend who is now her husband, on Mother's Day in the middle of Red Lobster in my first race in 2014. And I remember thinking to myself, I only get one chance to do this right. Because like all moms, sometimes we react to things in a way we wish we had it to do over. And I didn't want this to be one of those cases. We had her two daughters with us. So we're all sitting there for lunch on Mother's Day. When she told me she was pregnant, I remember I just said to her, well, just tell me that you're going to keep the baby. And she said, well, of course I am. And at that point, I said, well, then the rest is just logistics. How do we make this work? And it was the first time as a parent, as a person, I'd been personally put in the position of having to see if my faith and my beliefs were going to work for myself. And so I'm a big believer that in your faith, you get ready for what could happen before it happens. And then when it does happen, you're already good to go. And so those are some personal things I think that we all need to reflect on when we're talking to people about the pro-life issue. Ralph brought to me back in, I think it might have been 2016, the pain capable bill. So at week 20, we know that babies feel pain, lots of data about it. I remember I was a little nervous because I was a fairly new legislator. I've carried that bill every year now since I was elected. But I find that in the pro-life movement, sometimes I'm beaten up for that bill because there are individuals who say, oh, well, you believe that it's okay before 20 weeks. I don't. But I know one thing that has happened in the pro-choice movement is that they are willing to do this incrementally. We didn't get where we are overnight. We got there incrementally. And so I think as a pro-life movement, we need to remember that we might need to back things down slowly, because if we save one baby, it's one more that wasn't saved had we not done what we're doing. So I want to frame this with that. And then I would say, lastly, for however long this takes, for those who come for lobby day, I had my youth advisory council in Springfield today, and I said the same thing to them. You have a lot of power as constituents, as voters, as citizens of the United States. We have the ability to do things in this country that no one else in the world is able to do. And that is to actually go and lobby your elected officials. But when you go, I can tell you that the best way to do that is to be kind. I don't know if anybody has ever seen the movie Roadhouse, the original one with Patrick Swayze, but when he's talking to his bouncers, he tells them, be kind. If somebody gets in your face, be kind. If somebody kicks you in the knee, be kind. I don't think so. This is the exact examples, but that's how he's, and you continually be kind until you can't be kind anymore. When you come to Springfield, remember that all the legislators that are there, most of the time, they're just trying to represent their constituencies in the best way they can. Sometimes I think that they're misinformed often. We do have legislators who are lazy. They don't find out the facts about many issues. And then there are some whose worldview is different than mine. My worldview says that God is in charge, that he's my North Star, my point to always look towards. And so I'm a person who believes in absolutes. There are legislators whose worldview is not that way. They don't believe in absolutes. They believe in relativity. And so if something is relatively a certain way, they're okay with it. That doesn't mean that they hate you. It doesn't mean that they won't listen to you. It just means that their worldview is different. So you have to take a different approach with them. So in all things that you do, be kind. I would also say that if it's possible for you to make an appointment with your legislator, an appointment works better than just trying to show up and get squeezed in. But if the staffer tells you that there's no room on their schedule, then make sure that you either show up at their office, or in the case of the Senate, we're over in the Howlett building. So come over to the Howlett building and stand outside. And when you see the legislator that you're looking for walk by, if you politely say, could I have just a moment? I don't know any senator that's going to walk past you without stopping to hear what you have to say. And so again, if you will just be nice, remember that our goal is to save babies. Our goal is to save those women who are in crisis and don't know where to go or what to do. And my goal is ultimately to serve Jesus Christ and to do it in the best way that I can. And he always preached love. And so if we can find a way to do this in a loving way, also remember that there is great power in love and great power in just speaking truth. And speaking truth to power is a very, very powerful asset. So that would be my advice to everyone.
Well, I want to say thank you, Senator, for introducing and supporting the pain capable bill. And because that is such a powerful bill, because I have to say on the federal level, we work with a similar bill at 15 weeks pain capable, and it's an amazing educational opportunity.
So I also have the Ultrasound Opportunity Act. And again, this was one that Ralph brought to me. My sister is a nurse, used to volunteer at a crisis pregnancy center. We know that I believe it's 75% of the time, if a woman sees an ultrasound, she is not going to have an abortion. Right. So to my pro-choice friends, I say to them, if you believe in choice, then why would you allow Planned Parenthood to say that the ultrasound of your body is proprietary and that you can't see that ultrasound? We should be demanding that women be given the right to see an ultrasound. It's not secret. Of course, we don't want them to have an abortion. We know that they probably will not have one if they see the ultrasound. We should be very suspicious if Planned Parenthood says they don't want them to see it. Why not? Because they know their ultimate goal is to kill a human being. And so I'm going to keep carrying that Ultrasound Opportunity Act and the Pain Capable Bill until the Lord calls me home or until I'm not elected anymore. And then when I'm no longer elected, I will make sure that someone in the legislature continues to carry those bills.
Well, that's phenomenal. And the ultrasound one always baffles me, because in what other area of medicine do you not see that X-ray or that CT scan or just even getting cavity filled? Of course they show you what they're doing and how they're doing it. So I mean, just that alone is mind-boggling, the pure nature of informed consent around that. And like you said, it does change minds because they see the humanity of that unborn child. And so between that bill, the pain capable bill, and that's a powerful bill when you meet with your members, particularly members that may not be pro-life, is just educating around the science at 15, 20 weeks. These children are capable of feeling pain, all these different markers when they start sucking their thumb. So they can't deny the humanity of that child. Mm-hmm. So I think just that continuous education, we can't assume that people know that. And so thank you, Senator. I know you have to go shortly. So we're just so grateful for you joining us this evening and for your dedication to the unborn and for your personal compassion and sharing those personal stories with us as well. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right. So next, I am incredibly happy and thrilled to also introduce Representative Jeff Keicher. He is a member of the Illinois House of Representatives. He has earned the reputation as a bipartisan problem solver. His accomplishments have earned him the admiration of colleagues on both sides of the aisle, which include a bill to broaden the availability of mammogram screening, economic reforms that have contributed to the creation of thousands of good-paying jobs, 3 new laws to protect victims of sexual assault and domestic violence. Representative Keicher has also played a key role in passing legislation to extend treatment services to survivors of sexual assault, improve local government efficiency and accountability, and ensure nursing home visitation rights during public health emergencies. Jeff is a proud husband and father of 3 children with deep roots in the community going back multiple generations. Representative Keicher, we would love to hear, similarly as the senator just spoke to, but just what touches you, what's effective as far as when you meet with constituents, and what's maybe a compelling story that you can share with us from your experiences as a representative. Nope, I think you're still muted. Or actually you're not muted, but I can't hear you. Nope. No. No, we did test this before. We could hear him previously. So that's very strange. Um, hmm. No. How about this? Nope. How about you can keep trying to problem shoot that, and I will maybe switch to a different mic or computer, and I can introduce next Julie as you know, Julie as our next guest. So Julie Garofalo has been active in the pro-life movement for 40 years and felt especially called to Waterleaf shortly after its founding in 2009. Julie began her Waterleaf journey as a volunteer when she joined the original marketing committee, later serving on the development committee. In 2019, she joined the Waterleaf team as a patient relations specialist, later was named the Director of Patient Services, then began her service as Executive Director in January 2021. Being the executive director of such an important ministry is the calling of a lifetime, and Julie believes God has prepared her for this role through her long career in business and education and her vocation as a parent. She and her husband, Mike, live in Aurora and are members of Annunciation Parish, where they serve as Eucharistic ministers, lectors, greeters, and members of the pro-life committee. They are blessed with 5 children and their spouses and 6 grandchildren. Julie, we would love for you to share with us the critical role pregnancy resource centers play across California in providing life-saving resources for women and babies in need.
Of course. Thank you for inviting me to be part of this panel. Please forgive me for reading my prepared remarks. There's so much to say, and we could be here all night talking about the value of pregnancy centers, sharing stories of those we serve, the impact of national opinion and state legislation on our work. And you've already invested so much time in this today, and it is getting late. It's been a long day, so this will keep me on track. So on the surface, my personal pro-life story has very little to do with legislation. At age 13, with 4 brothers and only 1 sister, I was thrilled when my dad called from the hospital to let us know that we had a new baby sister. That excitement quickly turned to sadness and confusion when we learned that she had spina bifida and was not expected to survive beyond a few weeks or months. After a beautiful and fulfilling life in a body that challenged her, she died at the age of 54. She taught me the meaning of compassion and the value of every single life. In my early 20s, the establishment of Roe versus Wade piqued my interest in this so-called new pro-life movement. I was in and supported some national organizations and became active in my parish life ministry. Yet at age 32, when I found myself single, pregnant, ashamed, and scared, and with Roe versus Wade firmly ensconced in our nation, it was tempting to take that path despite my own personal beliefs and values. All it took was one person to say how thrilled they were for me and to offer help. This experience solidified my pro-life beliefs. 4 years later, I was married, and within 6 years had 4 more children. My pro-life focus shifted from active parish work to active motherhood. That changed in 2007 when Planned Parenthood came to my town, building what at the time was the 3rd largest abortion clinic in the nation. It's still considered a mega clinic. Until then, Planned Parenthood was always some other town's problem. Now it was in my backyard. The protests were immediate, and again, I was in, even though it was more uncomfortable than my previous pro-life work. While I would sign petitions and put up yard signs and come to pray, I did not call or visit my local, state, or national legislators. That was for someone else to do. In 2009, Waterleaf Women's Center was founded to assure that women coming to the Aurora, Illinois Planned Parenthood had an alternative place to go for their pregnancy screenings and counseling. In 2011, I again was in when I joined the Waterleaf team as a volunteer, assisting with marketing and development. In this capacity, I was well informed about the mission and strategic plans of the clinic, as well as the growing legislative maneuvers against pregnancy centers like Waterleaf. By 2017, we were making plans for a new building directly across the access road from Planned Parenthood, and we were taking proactive measures to protect the clinic from the growing abortion appetite of the Illinois legislature. As in as I thought I was, I didn't know what I didn't know until I started working in the clinic. This is when I gained a deeper appreciation for the work of pregnancy centers throughout Illinois and the nation. Women facing unexpected pregnancies were no longer just statistics. They were women with unique, compelling stories facing challenging circumstances, women struggling with life and death decisions. Let me tell you that there is a big difference between being in and all in. When you are all in, it becomes personal. It's about the high school sophomore athlete who, despite intense pressure from her boyfriend, chose life. It's about the young girl who chose abortion because she was forced to do so by her parents. It's about the woman who wanted to please everyone, burying her own desire to be a mom. It's about the mom of 3 whose husband threatened to leave if she had the baby. It's about the young immigrant, non-English speaking couple who, after 5 failed visits to Planned Parenthood for an abortion, were steered to us by a sidewalk counselor. After seeing their 20-week-old child on ultrasound, they chose life. It's about the joy of 3 sets of twins born to 3 women who took the abortion pill and changed their mind and came to Waterleaf for abortion pill reversal. It's about the young mother of 3 under 2 years old who lost her partner to a massive heart attack and how we continue to help her. It's about the woman who didn't feel any support and terminated her pregnancy and is now struggling with massive grief and suicidal thoughts. We are just one center of close to 100 centers in Illinois. Since 2009, Waterleaf has served close to 9,000 individuals from over 425 cities in 41 states, Puerto Rico, and Canada. In the last year alone, we've provided virtual pregnancy loss support to women from 6 of the 7 continents of the world. And most of all, we celebrated the confirmed birth of 2,186 babies. Now multiply that 100 and you multiply that by 100 and you can see how effective Illinois pregnancy centers are in serving women. Multiply that by the 3,000 centers in the nation and you see the impact of pregnancy centers nationwide. We are effective because we minister with love, compassion, and truth without judgment. We are effective because we use research-based protocols to assure there is no deception or coercion in our marketing or in our services. We are effective because our licensed medical providers conduct themselves with professionalism and integrity. We are effective because we offer exceptional care at no cost to our patients, saving taxpayers millions of dollars each year. We are effective because we care about women and we support them for as long as they need. We are effective because we are here to pick up the pieces of their complicated lives, giving them hope and confidence. We are effective because we honor women and we change lives. Somehow our state and national legislatures have determined we are fake and deceptive and we must be stopped. They've determined our religious beliefs and values have no place in serving women and we must tell them how and where to get abortions. They've decided everyone in the abortion industry is immune from any kind of prosecution, but we can be investigated just because we do what we do. They've decided minors can make life-changing decisions without their parents' knowledge. They've declared abortion pill reversal is incompatible with good medical practice, despite progesterone being used for over 50 years to save at-risk pregnancies. They've removed any safeguards to the abortion pill. This means a woman can obtain abortion pills without ever confirming she is pregnant or without any type of medical consultation. There is no guarantee that the pills she can so easily obtain are safe or effective. Not only are women being put at risk, but they are also being encouraged to undergo a medical procedure alone and without full informed consent about what to expect before, during, and after the procedure. And when something does go wrong, she is told to lie about what medication she has taken, putting her at further risk. They've gone out of their way in Illinois to make abortion easily accessible, using taxpayer dollars to pay for travel, housing, and meals, in addition to the abortion procedure, for women traveling to Illinois from states that have implemented regulations to safeguard women. The most difficult aspect of operating a pregnancy center in today's environment is that many people don't know what they don't know. Unless you work in a pregnancy center, your perspective doesn't include the daily, up close and personal encounters with women who have been groomed to believe that every pregnancy requires a decision, who have been groomed to disassociate with their babies, and who have been groomed to believe they have the right to choose who lives and who dies. Without that perspective, it's so easy to capitalize on the fears of denying a woman choice or denying easy access to abortion. No one wants to be told what they can and cannot do. It's so easy for well-meaning, faithful people to buy into this argument, even though they personally wouldn't have or support an abortion. As we've heard tonight, there's lots of pending legislation that is not good for our country or for our souls. The most effective way to address all of this is to be aware of what's going on and assess how it impacts our mission. And then we need to be proactive and act with confidence. Understand how these actions could impact your operations and double down to assure you are using protocols that are defensible. Stay connected with your lawyers and the legal entities with which you are affiliated. For us, that's Thomas More Society and NIFLA. Be willing to speak at rallies, invite legislators to your center, be willing to be a representative clinic in potential litigation, be willing to speak with the media, keep your team and your donors well informed, and stay connected and collaborate with other clinics. All of these measures must be carefully and intentionally planned, working in concert with your board of directors and seeking out the wisdom of experts. You don't have to do it all, but whatever you do, do it well and with confidence. Most importantly, we must keep the faith, for our work is ultimately God's work. In a reflection entitled Prophets of a Future Not Our Own is the following thought. We cannot do everything, but this enables us to do something and do it well, allowing the Lord's grace to enter and do the rest. We may not have all the answers tonight, but if we are all in, we can confidently move forward, each doing our part, knowing that nothing is impossible with that.
That was that was wonderful. Thank you so much, Jolie.
You're welcome.
I want to just one thing you said, and I think is important for all of us to and when we're out in the community, is that no woman should ever feel like they're alone, and that's why the PRCs are so critical, because they aren't. And there's so many of us in the community that want to help, that want to serve these women. And that is what the pro-life movement's all about. And our theme this year was actually with every woman for every child, to overcome that rhetoric that the pro-life movement is only pro-baby or, pro, before birth. But the reality is, for decades, we're the ones that have, like centers like yourself, have been helping these women every step of the way, and families, and not just, it's diapers, it's maternity homes, helping them find jobs, taking them out of abusive situations. Abortion is not the choice. It's empowering women to choose life. It's not the choice. So thank you. And we actually had a quick question since we're on this topic. Someone asked, what can I do to get involved and help in my local PRC? So what's the best advice for somebody?
First of all, the advice would be to call or visit the PRC, and to call or visit the PRC and talk to people who are there. Every PRC operates a little differently in the terms of the way that they use volunteers. For us, our volunteers go through, they actually learn to engage directly with the patients. So it's a very intense training program, but other centers need people to help with, other jobs that don't. I have someone who says that, if you need me to wash windows, I'll wash windows, and I'll say, okay, come wash my windows. There's so many things, but be cognizant of the fact that the centers do have policies and protocols, and it may not be what you think you might be doing there. So be open. Know that, as I tell everyone who wants to come volunteer for us, we believe God places people in pregnancy centers and builds the teams. And we don't know what your journey is. And it may be not to ever set foot here, but to know enough about a pregnancy center to be that person to someone else down the road who doesn't know what to do when they are faced with an unexpected pregnancy. And you're going to know that center well enough to say, go to that center. They will treat you well. And pray. Always, always pray. We will never run out of the need for prayer.
Great. Thank you. And Representative, hopefully we have
Can you hear?
We can hear you. Yes. Wonderful.
There we go.
Thanks again for being here with us. And I'm glad we got your audio resolved. So if you'd like to, circle back to what you find most compelling when you meet with your constituents and just any personal stories you'd like to share about being pro-life.
Yeah, sorry about the technical glitch, everybody. So I am State Representative Jeff Keicher. I represent parts of DeKalb, Kane, and McHenry counties, and I've been in the state legislature since 2018. I'm going to tell you a little bit of framing on how I got to where I am today that'll be informative of what I would expect you guys to be ready for next week when you head down to Springfield. So first, when I was growing up, when I was going through high school, we had some family issues and divorce, and I really found a lot of solace, friendship, peace in our local church and the work that they were doing and outreach in the community. It was through those relationships that I had an opportunity to travel to Russia for 4 weeks. And the reason that was important to me at the time is I thought my life was on a path that I was going to become a pastor. I thought that was my calling. That's where I wanted to be in this world. And Russia was a way that I would be able to explore that and see if it really was my calling. One of the most foundational things for my future after that was being in Russia. I found out that it wasn't. I knew then and there. And for those of you who've had a calling and have either followed it or realized that it wasn't, it's the journey of figuring out the calling that is just as important as determining what your mission is in this world. Because I start with two premises when I operate, whether I'm in my day job, whether I'm in the legislature, even before that. And the first comes out of Stephen Covey book. If any of you have read 7 Habits, it's seek first to understand before you seek to be understood. And I think that would help us tremendously in this place where we are in our world today. But also when you're talking to legislators, when you come down, I think framing your understanding of their knowledge, their experience in the space, and what their personal feelings or personal stories may be is a good touchstone for you to be aware of. I also know that I'm fallible, right? I am able to make mistakes, and it's only through forgiveness that I can get better and I can grow. And that's true with any legislator. We don't know the intimate details of everything that we're called to vote on. There's no way that you could. I think we're approaching right now in the Illinois House 6,000 bills that are out there, and I think there's another 4,000 or so in the Senate. So I will from time to time get criticized for casting a vote, because with that number of bills that we're seeing and we're going through, some of them make it to committee, some of them never make it. But to get a knowledge base on what that bill deals with, we rely on experts. And some of those experts are on our staff. We have House staff that helps us with that. But many more experts are folks like Felicia, Ralph, and Molly, who we can call on and get the context and get the greater understanding. I think one of the most fantastic accomplishments that you could have next week would be to connect with a legislator on a level where you become one of their experts, one of their people that they can call on when they're weighing an issue of how to vote on it. But you also have to keep in mind that seek first to understand perspective. They may not vote with you. We have in Illinois some very unique dynamics, and the pro-life folks are in the super minority in the Illinois House. So our challenge is oftentimes to make things less bad, and we can't get to victory. So it is often a time that's filled with frustration being down here because there are so many other voices that are going unheard and perspectives that are going outright ignored. When you go in to visit a legislator, please don't keep that on your shoulder. Please don't come in with that weight and be ready to bear. I'll share a story about when I was helping a trade group lobby in Washington, D.C. We had the opportunity, and this was before I was in the legislature, we had the opportunity to sit down with the congressman. We were sitting in his back office. There was about 8 of us. And right off the bat, one of my peers began leaning into the congressman about what a foolish vote it was on a bill that wasn't even related to why we were there that day. And the entire conversation was that member of our group derailing from the topic at hand, the important communication that we were supposed to have while we were visiting with our congresspeople. And so when you have a frustration or you're visiting with legislators where maybe you have a fundamental lack of understanding or you know that they are 100% pro-choice, that doesn't mean you shouldn't have the conversation. We want to connect as legislators with people that are both pro and against so many of the issues that are out there. So I would strongly encourage you to keep that in mind and to keep that framing that you're seeking first to understand where the legislator is before you seek to be understood about why you have a concern with perhaps how they voted or why they stand on the principles that they do. So that's the first thing. The second thing is understand that when you visit us in the Capitol, oftentimes we are running to and fro multiple appointments. So when I see you in the hallway, I'm thinking about 3 other things. One of them I just got here. I'm going to an appointment and I got to call this person back. And oh, yeah, I've got to stop over and get this report filed or this bill language in. There are so many things going on a general day that the legislature is in session. I would encourage you to do 2 things. First, make sure you're zeroed in and do what I call an upfront contract. And that is, listen, Representative Keicher, I know you've got a busy day today. I want to talk to you about the benefits of being pro-life and the things that we're working on today while we're in Springfield. Can I borrow 2 minutes of your time or more and get that upfront contract? Here's what I'm going to talk about. Here's how long I'm going to take. Then you've reached an agreement with the legislator and they're not going to back out of you at that point, right? You are zeroed in with them because you've come to that agreement. And then when you start in on your conversation, so often people want to establish rapport, right? Where are your kids from? Where you go? How many kids you got? When it's a busy day, and this doesn't speak to if it's a quiet day or you see them in the district or it's an event where there's plenty of time to stand around and talk. But if you're seeing them in the Capitol and it's on a session day, please try to get right to your point, right? Make sure that your introduction is brief because the framework of who you are and why you're there is important. Again, like I just shared, but Representative, here are the issues that we're concerned about on these 3 bills that you're going to be called to vote on. Can I go over the reasons why? And can I go over my personal story with you? And then proceed from there. Just make sure, because too often what we see is an interruption, a phone call, a text that we need to reply to because we've got committee in another 30 minutes and we've got to make sure everything's lined up for the committee. So just make sure you're getting your message across, you're getting that confirmation. So those will help you have a very successful interaction. And again, if I was to advise you on what you should be looking for, it is that ultimate goal of being a trusted resource for a legislator to call upon you because you are open and able to discuss an issue, even if you fundamentally disagree, that then you can be in that circle and you can help craft where that legislator's decision may come in. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. That was great advice. And I do want to reiterate something is that don't be scared to meet with your members. They want, I'm sure, Representative, you want to see everybody coming into your office on April 17th.
Absolutely. And I will tell you, Felicia, as well, if it's a lobby day like this and I have a group coming in that isn't from my district, there's not a constituent there, I will oftentimes say, can you just share with me the information? If there's not somebody from my district, I really don't have time to spare. And so, yes, absolutely make sure the one that you are represented by you're visiting with.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will actually be sharing that information leading up to next week with the link where you can find your member, and definitely schedule in advance because they have very busy schedules. But even if you don't have time to do that, like the representative center said, it's great to still swing by and stop by and at least make sure they know that you were there. So I got a question here. And we're actually entering the Q&A portion, so I'm going to put it so everybody can see our guests as we have this discussion. So one of the questions we received was, are there any bills right now in the legislature that either our marchers can support, or any pro-life bills to support, or are there any that we need to be out there advocating against?
Well,
So
let me, oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not on the relevant committees that usually see that. So I would say, let's have Ralph give that a whirl.
Absolutely.
So there are 11 abortion-related type bills that we do not like. Otherwise, I call them pro-life bills. I have to say that legislators, pro-life legislators, a number of them introduced, I think we've got about 20 pro-life bills that were introduced this year. And the problem is we never get a hearing. They won't even let us have a hearing in committee. But there are right now, or at the beginning of this year, about 11 abortion bills in a variety of ways. And a number have fallen by the wayside. We now have just several out there. Some were even horrendous. For example, there was a bill that said they amended the Abused and Neglected Child Reporting Act. That's where the Department of Children and Family Services comes in. And they wanted to make what an abused child was a child whose parent won't let them get an abortion. And can you imagine that if that was the situation, that child can be removed from the home because it's an abused child. Very dangerous bill. Fortunately, it didn't move. And so I think we're good this year. But these are the kinds of bills that are out there. There are now a number of bills that are, they have a bill that says an employer cannot, quote unquote, discriminate on the basis of a healthcare decision of whether an employee is going to get an abortion or had an abortion or this type of thing. And we were also concerned that this wouldn't apply to religious employers. So the church or the religious school, when they have employees work for them, they're part of the mission. And you always say to the employee, we need you to follow the doctrines of the church. You may not believe in them, but as an employee, you have to follow them. So we were able to secure that the religious employer is exempt from this. But it's still a bad one because it seeks to normalize abortion in the workplace. So these are the types of things that we're looking at. But it's just a hard thing that we see as they try to fine tune abortion in Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and as we get closer to the march, we will be sending out to everybody that registered information about some of these bills that Ralph was talking about to prepare you to meet with your members. So don't feel like you need to go out and be the expert after this webinar. And so here's actually an interesting question from one of our attendees, and So going back to the discussion we had about ultrasounds, is it legal for Planned Parenthood to deny a woman who asks to see her ultrasound from, like, basically deny a woman from seeing her ultrasound? Like, are they currently in Illinois legally allowed to do that?
We don't, the ultrasound bill was meant to require that Planned Parenthood or an abortion clinic offer a woman to see the ultrasound. She could refuse it,
Right.
but it was to offer. That legislation has not passed into law, has not moved. So at this time, I mean, I don't know if there are other business models or whatever, but at this time, we have no law that says they must show the woman ultrasound.
Our conversations with the women that we see, some of them say they were offered the opportunity. Some of them say they were not. Some of them say they were given an ultrasound, but they were not shown any of the results or told any of the results. So it's kind of hit or miss what a standard protocol might be in some of the abortion clinics.
Years ago, we had the ultrasound bill, and a woman who's pro-choice came down to the Capitol to walk with me and talk with legislators in support of the ultrasound bill. She said she was on the table. The monitor was away from her, so she couldn't see this. And she said, "What are you looking at? Can I see it?" And they said, "No, it's against our policy to show it to you." She said, "What do you mean? I'm paying for this. Why can't I?" So she got angry, got up out of the table, went across the street to one of the Women's Resource Center, and they showed her, and she chose to have that baby. Well, in fact, when she was down in Springfield with me, she was like 8 months pregnant. That was the baby.
Goodness.
So, and I heard another situation where a woman was on the table. They wouldn't show her the monitor. And the nurse went to the other nurse and went like this, and meaning they're twins. And so she said, wait a minute, what are you doing there? Let me see this. No, she got up and left. So these are stories that we wanted to let legislators know. Why shouldn't the woman have that choice?
Yeah. Well, Representative, there's like a combination of questions here, but I think these make sense for you to answer. So somebody was asking, so my representative is pro-abortion. How do I talk to them? Would they want to meet with me? And also pretty much like, what's the best way to reach out to schedule a meeting with someone like yourself and the Illinois General Assembly? Is it telephone? And is it going to be a busy day on the 17th? They want to know when we're marching.
Yeah, so I believe the 17th will be a busy day because I believe both the House and the Senate are in that day. So we will have a lot of committee work to be done. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it's the Friday of that week is the last day for us to move bills in order for them to move over to the Senate. So it'll be a busy week in the chamber. So I would invite anybody who's there to stop up in the gallery and see the action on the floor in the House. Listen, I think one of the fundamental problems in our society right now is we're losing our ability to talk in a civilized way with people that don't agree with us. And we see that from the people that are pro-abortion, but we also see it on our side as well. And I go back to my premise of I'm a faulty human being. I know that only through forgiveness am I going to be able to seek salvation. And so I try to approach with a humble humility and just ask some open-ended questions about their framework and why, and but in a non-confrontational way, because I don't think you will ever get any buy-in. But if they know that you are true of heart and they know that you truly care about the issue and why, I think they are going to be less tempted to shut you down. And if we aren't brave enough to have conversations with people that disagree with us, I would argue it's not worth your time coming down here, right? Because there are so many people in this building that you are going to disagree with. And if the battle isn't worth fighting with people that disagree with us, I don't know that your heart is in it. So I would push back a little bit on that and suggest that there is a way for that to happen and that conversation to be very civil. And yes, reaching out, I would tell people to call the Springfield office for the representative or senator that you want to see what their best timeline is during the day. And do keep in mind what I said earlier, that you could easily get bumped. You could show up, and we've had committees that folks, sometimes the committee is supposed to start at 2:30 and we finally get underway at 4, and half of us have been sitting there waiting. The other half are in another committee room on another issue. And so it is a very fluid situation. So even the morning of, even the hour before, you could have a time slot marked out that you're sure you're going to go talk with your senator, and then it turns out that they're unable to make it. Please don't take offense to that. It is just the nature of the beast. I would certainly ask their support person, we call them legislative assistants. I would ask their legislative assistant, would there be a better time today? Do you know when the committee would be over? Would it be appropriate for me to set up an in-district meeting? So don't just turn around and go away. Find out when is a better time to talk with that senator or representative.
Great point, actually. So if you can't meet with your member on the 17th when you're in Springfield, they're much more available, like the representative said, typically in their home district. I think you'd probably agree. There's just more flexibility to work with your schedule. So don't just see it as one day, it's year round. And another way of doing that is working with your local PRCs and having them come visit, particularly pro-abortion members, seeing the amazing life-affirming work that is happening. And even if it can be arranged where PRC has stories that women can share of how their lives were changed, can be some of the most powerful experiences. And if you're meeting with your members, share a story. Even if you don't personally have a story, ask someone who you know has a story, if you can share it, because that's a great way to just build that rapport and that trust in that moment. So, and find some common ground. So I know we're out of time. Thank you for all our amazing panelists for being here this evening, as well as everyone who took time out of their evening to join us and get educated. This has been a great discussion. I hope we've inspired all of you to become stronger advocates for life. And if you haven't already, as we said, schedule a meeting with your legislator when you come on the 17th. We'll be sending out more information on how to do that. And we will actually also be sending out a recording of this event so you can watch it again, share it with your friends who may be attending or want to learn more about pro-life advocacy. So you will also have that resource as well. So thank you again to everyone here. And remember, when we raise our voice together, we are stronger and we can help every woman and every child in Illinois, and to never lose hope, because we are on the side of truth. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Julie, Ralph.
Thank you, Felicia.
Thank you.
Oh, good.
Bye-bye. Have a wonderful evening.
Okay. See y'all next week.
See you on the 17th.